Create Art Podcast. Commentary. Play. Hello, friends. This is Timothy Kimo Bryan, your head instigator for Create Art Podcast, where I use my over 30 years of experience in the arts and education world to help you tame that inner critic and create more than you consume. So this year, I have kind of revamped my format as opposed to previous years. And this year, I'm going through a card collection. And not the kind of cards you're thinking about, but it's called Kickstart Creativity, and it's by Bonnie Smith Whitehouse. I will have the links in the show notes, but it's 50 cards that spark inspiration. My wife gave this to me in December of 2022, and initially I was like, why is she giving me these cards? I mean, you know, the name of the podcast is Create Art Podcast, but I am so glad that she did because it's a great resource to help you think about certain things, you know, with art. So what it is like I said, 50 different cards. They have definitions. They have different challenges that you can do. And there's three types of cards. There's the red cards, which are action cards, the green cards, which are perspective cards, and the blue cards, which are intention cards. And I've been doing the blue cards, starting off with those. And just a word about the schedule. April of every year is National Poetry Writing Month. So I always participate in National Poetry Writing Month. And so that's what I'm doing this month. So I'm going to put a pause on the inspiration cards, the Kickstart Creativity cards, for the rest of April. But it will be back in May. I'll do the same thing probably again in November for National Novel Writing Month. So if you don't hear the commentary next week, don't worry. It will be back in May. I'm just going to be pausing this because, you know, it's a lot to write poetry every day. It is a challenge. So today the card is play, which is really good for me because, well, I've got twins and they like to play all the time. So more on that in a little bit. So on the front of the card, naturally it says play. And then at the bottom, it says, play takes us out of time, simultaneously connecting us with others while helping us discover ourselves. Wow. Yeah, discovering ourselves when we're playing. A lot of times we need to get in that play mode and to discover who we are. And, you know, we take a look at our play and see what comes of it. And hopefully something fantastic comes out of it. Some sort of great piece of art. You never know until you try, until you play. So let's take a look at the intention card here. Envision a child constructing a sand castle or weaving a necklace of clover. Everyone knows that children need to play to learn and grow. But not everyone recognizes that play is also important for the well-being of adults. Adults tend to dismiss play as a guilty pleasure that's siphoning time from something more productive. Play doesn't have to be rigid or competitive. Unstructured play helps you discover a sense of wonder and befriend your inner child. Befriending your inner child. I like the thought of that. You know, we can't be a good friend to somebody else. You can't love somebody else until you love yourself. Same thing with being a friend, you know. You're just kind of reverting back to childhood. Now, some of us have not had the best childhoods in the world. Some of us have had, you know, storybook childhoods. But when we look at childhood in general, and this is painting with a wide brush, haha. But if we look at, you know, the way childhood should be, That is a time of discovery, time of wonder, and a lot of that wonder and discovery come through play. Now, I always say in my beginning, 30 years of experience in the arts and education world. So, Ed, there was a time when I was teaching, and, I feel as a father, I'm teaching every day. But even when I wasn't a father, I felt like I was always teaching somebody something. And one of the best ways to teach people things was to institute some form of play in it. And I know for me, that helps me remember things. And so when we incorporate play into our artistic practice, we tend not to take ourselves too seriously. I mean, you should be serious about your work, yes, but you can get to be too hoity-toity and too serious, which is never a good thing, because, well, it just isn't a good thing to get too hoity-toity about yourself. So when we bring that aspect of play into whatever art we're performing, whatever art we're doing, creating, then it's a lot easier to do it. It's a lot easier to do the hard things, because no matter what practice you do, there's hard things and there's easy things to do. And a lot of times you want to knock out all the easy stuff. But sometimes you just gotta, bite the bullet and knock out the hard stuff first. Also, play is a great motivator. I know with my kids, I tell them, hey, listen, if you behave, we're going to go go to the park today, or we're going to go swimming today, or we'll do, we'll have some sort of fun thing to do. So play can be a great motivator for when you're creating your art. Hey, I'm going to get done with this string painting. When I get done with this string painting, then I'm going to go on my PlayStation 4 and beat the heck out of people at hockey. That's my thing, is I'd like to, play on game consoles and usually play hockey and beat the crap out of other people. But that's just me. It helps me get out that extra energy. It gives me some motivation to get my work done. I remember doing a podcast series with a buddy of mine. And we would have a lot of laughter and a lot of fun with it. And we would create blooper reels for it. And then we did, the best, it made an episode of the podcast, the best of the blooper reels, the stuff that most people didn't get to hear. And that was one of our best episodes. People understand, hey, we make mistakes. And maybe that's something you can do with your art. Create a blooper reel and show it once a year, and take the hoity-toityness. I think that's going to be the word for the week, hoity-toity. But when we take ourselves a little bit less seriously, have a little bit more fun with ourselves, then our audience can let down their guard a bit and have fun with us as well. So let's look at some definitions, and these are brought to us by Merriam-Webster, of play. So we find that play is the conduct, course, or action of a game, a particular act or maneuver in a game. It's also recreational activity, especially spontaneous activity of children, an act, way or manner of proceeding in the state of being active, operative, or relevant to engage in sport or recreation. So, Merriam-Webster is really focusing on the game aspect of play. And, when we play board games, when we play card games, it sharpens our mind, and it makes us more aware of everything that's around us. So playing has a lot of benefits to you. It's relaxing to the mind. It's motivating. It gives you rest, recuperation. It also gives you inspiration. It gives you insight into yourself. And for your audience, it gives you insight to your audience. It gives your audience insight into who you are. Just like me messing that up, you know that, oh my gosh, he's having a wonderful Sunday morning. Okay, let's look at the challenges that they give us. Compose a list of things that inspired wonder when you were a child. Remember and honor what made your childhood self feel most joyful, creative, and playful. So this has been a busy week for me, but composing a list that inspired wonder when I was a child. I love to draw. I love to draw maps of imaginary places, and drawing and painting. Even though I was a horrible painter, I could draw a map of a fantastic place and create a story behind it, and that was enough for me. Now, I'm a child of the 70s and the 80s, so we didn't have a lot of the things that my kids have today. I look at just, looking at TV, and even if you don't have cable, which we just cut our cable, all the channels that you can still get for free, it's mind-blowing. You're wondering, where was this when I was a kid, But, I mean, play is not watching TV. Play is going in, if you have a child, coloring in a picture with your child. That is something that you'll remember forever and ever versus how many times you saw SpongeBob SquarePants. So, just creating stuff with my hands has always been something that I've really enjoyed, especially as a kid. So that's what I try to do here. Ingrained generational and cultural attitudes often make being exhausted and busy a status symbol. How can you or your group make everyday tasks you've already doing feel more like play than busyness? Yeah. I know when I was a kid, again, it's the whole, work hard. And then, you can crash out on Saturday and watch cartoons all day. And then on Sunday, you got to go to church. So, there's no rest for the wicked. And I know in my culture that's, hard work. I'm from the Midwest, so there's this Midwest work ethic, which I still don't understand, but I get accused of it all the time. And I live in the South. Well, I live in Virginia, which is I technically the South. But I do recognize that I do work harder than my peers a lot of time. And that's why I don't want to be a supervisor, because I don't want anyone to work at my pace, because it's not necessarily a healthier or the healthiest pace. I'm working on doing better at it, but I do know that, a lot of times my parents, and, this isn't a slam on my folks, but, it was, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. So it was always work. If there's overtime to be had, take that overtime. If you can get a bonus, work towards the bonus to get extra money. So I know that that's a thing that I am trying to overcome and try to put in more play and not feel bad about the play. And I think that that's one of the other things too, that, I was always taught that if you're playing, you're being lazy, and that's not the case. You're recouping, you're restoring yourself. Think of play as a restoration. Think of play as something necessary, as necessary as any meeting that you're ever going to have. Your yearly review. Well, you need, your play, your time that you're enjoying life needs to be as important as that review. So make sure that you're doing that for yourself. We always want to be better than what came before us. So that's an important thing, to become better. The last challenge is pull a red action card and combine it with an activity that feels playful. So I'm not going to pull a action card. I'm going to go against the rules, kids. Going to go against the rules here. But an action for me that feels playful is just grabbing out some pencils, some colored pencils, and just doodling, recreating my environment. That to me seems playful. Or making a map of a country that doesn't exist, or of a continent, or of a planet that we haven't discovered yet. That is playful for me. And that's kind of mindless playfulness. I'm not going to recommend, hey, go get a PlayStation 4 and go play this game. That's being playful, yes. But I would recommend better activities than that. Maybe it's you're doodling in a notebook, or you're just putting together a collage. Something along those lines. That it does require some brain power, but it also requires, some luck and some imagination to it. So, do that for yourself instead of necessarily going to your screens on your smartphone or your stupid phone, if it's stupid, or watching cable TV. I know for me, this is something that I'm always working on because, I don't want my kids to necessarily grow up raised by screens. I know for me, my folks, passed us off to the Atari 2600 and a lot of, we had a pool in the backyard. So sometimes in the summertime, we would, spend all day playing Atari. Sometimes we would be swimming all day in the pool. The stuff that was a lot more fun was swimming all day in the pool. Quite honestly, it was more imaginative. And if you've seen an Atari 2600 with the graphics, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, go online and take a look at the graphics from that era. We thought it was pretty hot back then, but unfortunately, it doesn't compare to what's available today. And I know I'm guilty of this too. Recently, there's a game called Diablo 4, and they had a open beta. And I've been waiting for this game to come out for 10 years, which is ridiculous. I'm waiting for a game. And so when the beta came out, I wanted to play it. And you know what? It came out over 2 weekends, and I played some of it, and it was fine. It was a lot of fun. I played it in front of my wife, and we had a great time with that and talking about it. But what was more fun was coloring in some coloring books with my daughter the other day. And that coloring was a lot of fun. Today, which in the United States, it's Easter Sunday, we're going to go out to a Easter egg hunt, and Mom and I are going to take a look at some plants for the backyard, and the kids are going to bring their baskets and hunt for Easter eggs, and then we'll color eggs later on today and just have a good time of it. But yeah, I was so glad that the beta for that game happened on that weekend versus this weekend. It wouldn't be. There's no competition between the two. Naturally, I'd go and hang out with my kids versus the game because, they at some point they have to go to bed. I don't, but they do. But no, I made sure to take out time for myself, and my wife made sure that I took time for myself to play. And with the podcast, again, that's a form of play for me as well. So you're listening to how I play and how I enjoy myself, enjoy my time. So thank you for doing that. But definitely, put that play activity into your schedule. And when you're making art, see if you can't, utilize what you've learned in your playtime and apply it to your art. Or maybe that's where your inspiration comes from. If you're a writer, you write about the fun time that you had. If you're a painter, you paint it. If you're a dancer, you dance about that fun time that you experienced. If you're a musician, you write a song about it. Whatever your discipline, definitely incorporate some play into it. Your audience will appreciate it. It'll give another side of you that they may not have seen. Sometimes we need to be a little bit less serious about ourselves and show that fun side. Let that freak flag fly. Well, that was today's card. I appreciate you taking a listen to this podcast, and I really appreciate the time that you put into it. And I hope you appreciate the time that I put into it. I do want to ask you a slight favor. If you got any benefit out of this, I'd ask you to go ahead and share it with a friend. Whatever app you're using, if you're on my website, go ahead and give them the website. If you're, using an app, share it through your app. There's lots of different ways, lots of different apps out there. So I'm not going to go through them all. But yeah, go ahead and share it with a friend. I don't mind. Don't mind at all. The other thing I'd like to ask of you is that if you have something going on in your neck of the woods, or if you have, a piece of art that you're working on that I can help you out with, or if you want to get your work out there to other people, I'd be happy to interview you on this show. You can email me, timothy@createartpodcast.com. And I'd be happy to get back with you and talk about it and see what we can do about that. The last thing I'm going to ask of you, and I know I'm asking a ton, and I apologize for that, but could you go ahead and email me and let me know what would make this a 5-star podcast in your eyes? I'd like to know about that. You can, a lot of the apps out there, you can comment right there on the app and leave your review or all that. And by all means, go ahead and do that. Even if it's not a 5-star, if it's a 4-star, if it's a 1-star, go ahead and do that. But what I would ask you to do, please, is to go ahead and email me. Same email address, timothy@createartpodcast.com. And let me know what's going to make this a 5-star podcast for you. Now I'm going to release you to the rest of your day. I hope this was enjoyable for you. I know it was enjoyable for me. So go out there. Tame that inner critic. Create more than you consume. And go out there and make some art for somebody you love, yourself. I'll talk to you next time.